Let's talk about what's going on. You who sees your thoughts, you who hears the sounds, you who tastes the taste, touches the touch, you, the consciousness, the awareness of being, you have a nature. In the ancient scriptures, there's a name for the nature of your soul, of your being. It's called Sat Chit Ananda, constant, eternal ecstasy. Those are not just words. Those are not just words. That's your nature. Nature of rain is wet. Your nature, the nature of being, is ecstasy.
Like the release from suffering, it just feels incredible. I think Shi and Yang said if you can have a choice between being the most famous rock star or the most powerful athlete in the world, richest CEO for the rest of your life, versus just one day of this, no brainer, he'll pick this. I can totally agree with that. If you can just experience one moment of this peace, joy, and freedom.
What is here when that's not operating is wholly indescribable. It's astounding. Moment to moment, it's astounding. You could almost call it ecstatic.
The nature of consciousness is ecstasy. Right now, everything you ever dreamt of times 7 billion, it is going on inside of you. It is always there. It is the nature of consciousness, and you are conscious. So, if that's true, and it is, why don't I experience that? We don't experience it unless you've done tremendous work on yourself. Let's say I took you to the most beautiful place that could ever be. But 10 feet away from you, there was this noise, a rustle. Do you know how you could miss the entire experience of the beauty I took you to? By paying attention to the rustle that's happening over there 10 feet away from you. If you are distracted, your consciousness will shift over to what you've been distracted by. That's what distraction means. That it captures consciousness and pulls it toward it. If it pulls your consciousness toward it, then you are no longer experiencing the beauty of the place I took you. Do you understand that? You experience where your consciousness is. If you don't pay attention, by default, what you're going to do is things are going to distract you. That's why you don't experience the ecstasy. And that is the only reason you don't experience the ecstasy. Until you're a willfully centered conscious being, you are conscious of that which distracts your consciousness the most. Right now, you are scattered. The consciousness is always there, but the there is all over the place. So for a moment, the consciousness is there, but it's on this thought, then it's on that thought, then it's on this lady, then it's on that man, then it's on that bug, then it's on this, then it's on that, then it's on this noise, then it's back on that thought, then it's on that thought, right? And this goes on all day. It just jumps around like a jumping bean. Why does consciousness jump around like a jumping bean? It's easy why. Your consciousness will go to that which distracts it. That's what you're conscious of. The emotion, the thought, the outside object, whatever it is that at a given moment distracts that consciousness the most, that's where that consciousness is going. Kind of goes from here to there, and you jump over there, and the things outside, and you're back inside, you go. You have no idea what a ping pong ball your consciousness is all day. Because you're just totally used to it. until you become a centered being and start to watch it happen, you don't have any idea. Your consciousness is not aware of its nature. Why? Because it's aware of the nature of your mind. It's aware of the nature of your heart. It's aware of the nature of the colors outside. It's aware of the nature of the sounds that are outside. It's aware of the nature of how you feel about your girlfriend or your wife, your husband. It's aware of something else. Inside, I assure you, there is this flow of constant ecstasy. But I keep getting distracted. You're not distracted by one thing. Your consciousness is all over the place. You're distracted by this emotion, that emotion, this subconscious thought, plus this conscious thought, plus what's coming in through every one of your five senses. You're distracted by what happened 15 years ago that mommy did, or that your husband or wife did. Wow. You're in big trouble. I get distracted by the opposite sex. I get distracted by money. I get distracted by boats and cars and different things, right? Those are distractions. How do you know? Are you in ecstasy? Every time you sit down, every time you do anything, is there so much joy welling up inside of you, the rush of holy waters, that it just pulls you inside and you just go into ecstasy anytime you close your eyes? No, why not? Because you're distracted. Some people say, I'll be okay when I get what I want. You've gotten what you want plenty of times. Are you enlightened? Those are distractions. The question becomes, what happens if I'm not distracted? What happens if I'm not distracted? All of a sudden, instead of all this scatteredness going on inside, it becomes one-pointed. That's why yoga works with one-pointedness. And then what are you going to feel? You're going to feel ecstasy. Period. I'm telling you. You're going to feel joy. You're just going to sit there and feel joy pouring through your whole being. So now when you understand, you sit there and say, what do I do about it? The Bible says it. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. Christ said the kingdom is within you. That's literally where it is. Once you understand, what I seek is inside of me. Everyone wants to go out there and have more experiences and see more sunsets. What are you doing? You don't understand. What you're seeking is the experience that is your own being. You're distracted from the seat of self so that you can't experience what's going on inside of you because you're busy experiencing what's going on outside of you. And your thoughts are outside of you. Whether the thought is pure, whether the thought is impure, whether the thought's about God, whether the thought's about the devil, you are being distracted by a thought. There are things that distract you. If you let them distract you, you will not know yourself because you're busy knowing them. You're just not going to experience the greatness that's inside of you because you're experiencing that instead. So now when you understand, you sit there and say, what do I do about it? If you watch your breath, you will become seated in the self. It will make you conscious, totally conscious. That's all. Just watch your breath.
I just focused on my breath, and then the whole thing just unraveled. I mean, the whole thing. It's like the entire universe just came apart. From that, all fears, everything just went away.
If you were to become aware of every single breath, you would be a conscious being. You would be seated in a persistent state of conscious awareness. If you should choose to do this, noticing that your breath goes in and out free of charge by itself, the breath is going in and the breath is coming out. Watch. Watch everyone. I'm serious. You think you can't? You could go about your entire life and do every single thing you're doing and watch every single breath that comes in and out. You live your everyday life. You do every single thing that you're doing. You just become more conscious. if you do that, you will see that you are distracted from that constantly. That your consciousness just goes all over the place with the slightest thought, the slightest feeling, the slightest something. Why? Because the thing that distracted you was more important to you than watching that breath. So at some point, you will understand it is important, it is my life. Otherwise, my life is scattered all over the place, every thought, every feeling, everything. Therefore, I'm going to watch my breath. So the act of watching your breath and going through this little struggle, that's a good thing to do. Just little by little, do it. And eventually you will do it, and it will be effortless. And it actually builds more consciousness. You have an unlimited amount of consciousness. Unlimited. You're so beyond anything you have any idea. The problem is you don't use it. It scatters over here and it's thrown all over the place. Should you center and harness your consciousness and draw on your consciousness, you have unlimited amount of consciousness. So don't think that because you're watching your breath, you can't take care of the kids. You can't go to school, or you can't go to work, you can't read books, you can't, even while you're reading, you just watch your breath. It just does it. They can do all of it. It's an amazing thing, consciousness. Now, because you have chosen to hold this fixed position within yourself, you're going to notice that you get distracted pretty easy and pretty often. Why do you notice that? Because you're trying to not. Because you've decided to stay and watch your breath. Therefore, you can't let it. If you let it just distract you and go all the way out there, then you fail. You didn't watch your breath. So all of a sudden, you're going to have to assert will against the habitual tendency to have your consciousness drawn to the loudest object, to the most distracting object. Now, if you watch that breath constantly, relentlessly, all the time, there's this constant center that is never distracted fully from where it's sitting. That is the seat of self. That is the seat of awareness of being. So now let us imagine that you have achieved to this state. And from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to sleep at night, there is never a time that you are not aware of this constant, steady movement of the underlying flow of your breath. From that point, it all happens. You're sitting there, and what you'll see is there are all these energies inside and outside that are distracting your consciousness. There's all this Shakti in there that's going everywhere. And you'll watch all this pull on your consciousness. So now you'll feel the pull. You'll feel the pull of things that try to take it away from watching your breath. So you get to the point by staying centered, and breath is a very good way to do it, that you start to see what's going on. You have this tremendous dance of energy inside that is unbelievably all over the place, and your consciousness is going with it. When you maintain your center, you now have a choice. You have a choice of whether to go with it or not. As you sit in the center and the energies dance around, a phenomenal process takes place. If you stay centered and it pulls on your energy, your consciousness, but you maintain your center of consciousness, all of a sudden the energy that it was comes into you. Because you didn't go, you win. And somehow over time, that energy that was so strong and kept pulling you away, because you sat centered, it surrenders to you and comes back to you. You'll see it as clear as you see the sun shining in the sky. And all of a sudden what happens is all this Shakti starts to build inside of you, inside your center. So instead of getting more scattered, you become more centered. Therefore, all your energy starts to build inside. And this is yoga. This is the power of yoga. Power of yoga. Power of yoga. That's the flow of the Shakti. Christians talk about the flow of spirit, the rush of holy waters. Yogis talk about the Kundalini coming up and the Shakti pouring out the higher chakras. And so now as you center and it starts to build inside, it becomes a tremendous force inside. It becomes your force. Eventually, a channel of energy, very strong, is flowing up inside of you.
There was this sun-like ball of energy, very intense, incredibly intense. It was so physical. This is what I really want to convey, is that it was so real. This was like a nuclear reactor that was going up and down my spine.
Once enough of these energies come in and stop going out, then they go up, really.
As the consciousness builds its center, it's like getting onto NASA's launch pad.
You feel all this energy build inside of you. All by itself. The entire journey is one of centering and ascending. Your inner state, your deep inner state, is overwhelming bliss flowing through your being every second of your life. Just literally waves, throngs of overwhelming joy beyond anything you've ever felt. Beyond holding your child for the first time. Take the most perfect moment you ever had, multiply it times 1,000,000, and have them going on inside of you all the time. That is your natural state.